Hey guys, what's going on? It's your boy, the Mad Tiger. And up here today, guys, I've got something a little bit more on track today. Obviously, I've recently been doing like the PlayStation 2 collecting guide and stuff. And today, what I've got for you guys is a day one purchase of games for the PlayStation 2. These are games that I think everyone should try, or if you're looking to get into the PlayStation 2, what games do I think are the best ones to go out and buy? Which one do I think you're going to get your money's worth? Now, a lot of these are my personal opinions, and what I've done is I've split them into genres. Of course, there's a bunch more games that you can get out there, and obviously, I'm sure you guys will tell me some games, obviously. But like I said, I've tried to split this into a sub-genres. Starting off with a compilation game. Now, if you're looking for something that's a bit more casual, a bit more arcadey, just to have a bit of fun, you don't need to take things too seriously, then I highly recommend Midway Arcade Treasures. Now, there's a bunch of arcade compilations on PlayStation 2. There's 3 Midway Arcade Treasures games, and although the third one is racing games only. There's Taito Legend, there's Atari Anthology, there's a bunch. But the reason I want to talk about Midway Arcade Treasures is just because this becomes with this has a great selection of content on here. You know, you have a bit of everything. You've got some twin stick shooters like Smash TV on here. You've got some shoot 'em ups like what's on here? Like SimStar. And then you've got like your classics like your Paperboy, your beat 'em ups like Rampage, you've got Puzzle Marble Madness, and Spy Hunter. This is just a great section of games that if you're just looking to play some classics and you don't want to take things too seriously, I highly recommend this game. And of course, a lot of the games on here are 2-player as well. One of them even has 8 players, Rampart and SimStar. Rampart can have up to 8 players. That's amazing. I don't know how you do that though, because I don't know how you go about trying to get 8 players. But yeah. So there, yeah, this is a really good compilation and definitely one that I'd recommend if you are looking for a compilation. Next is a puzzle game. I had to include at least one puzzle game, another casual game, and that is the Super Buster Move series. Now, of course, it has one of the most atrocious covers on here, but this is a really, really fun game. Now, it's not like Tetris or anything like that. We all love Tetris and Puyo Puyo. This is a bubble style one where you shoot the bubbles up in the air and you have to match the colours. And although this game can be pretty fun and challenging in single player, if you have someone else to play it with, it's a highly recommended game. You can just have a lot of fun with this. Really casual game. There is a second one as well. There might be a third one. But the Super Buster Move games are fantastic. Of course, continuing on from the Buster Move games from the PlayStation 1. This is a highly recommended game. And even though the cover's atrocious, you can have a lot of fun with this. Just casual. And, you know, if you're just looking for that puzzle. Next, I'd include some sports games. Now, obviously, I'm not the biggest sport fan. I don't play football or NFL or anything like that. But there's a ton of NFLs and FIFAs and stuff like that on PlayStation 2. There's so many sports games, but I wanted to include some of the more like extreme sports. First up, I wanted to include Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4. I don't really class this as a sports game, but it kind of is. Now, the thing about Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4 is, what I love about this game is it just has a bit of everything from the previous games in here. It has some great 2-player modes like the casual modes like the free roam and the horse and the skate attack. You could customize your own levels on this, and it's a really good semi-open world game. And you know, it takes what was great about the previous games and just, in my opinion, just bundles it in a really nice package. Of course, there was a bunch of Tony Hawk games on PlayStation 2, but this is just the one that I'd recommend getting. It's just a great game, and this was before like you could get off your skateboard and stuff, so it's still a bit of a nod to the older Tony Hawk game. Definitely a day one purchase if you are into that sort of stuff. In a similar vein, I had to recommend the SSX series. Now, SSX Tricky is obviously considered to be, some people say it's the best one. I think it's the second in the series. It's either the second or, I think it's the second game. This is a really highly recommended game. It's just a really fun, downhill, arcadey, like, it's mixed between racing and sport, snowboarding of course, and you know there are some more realistic snowboarding games out there for you guys, if, you know, like the ESPN snowboarding games, Johnny Mosley's Mad Tricks and stuff like that. But if I had to recommend at least one snowboarding game, like snow game, I had to recommend one of the SSX games. Really fun game. You're going to have a lot of fun with this. This game is a great casual game as well for people just looking for something a little bit more fun, nothing too serious. It's not realistic at all, and you can just have some crazy fun time. I had to recommend at least one sporty fighting game almost, and that is the Smackdown versus Raw. Now, I could have recommended 2006 or Smackdown Here Comes the Pain, but I'm going to be honest with you, I actually played Smackdown versus Raw more than any of the other wrestling games. Now, even if you're not the biggest wrestling fan, I highly recommend Smackdown versus Raw because this game has... although this game did try to go into some sort of simulator, for the most part this game is very arcadey. It's easy to pick up and play. This game just has so many modes in here. Some crazy, like, you know, it has the GM mode, create championship, create pay-per-views. You know, you could fight dirty, fight clean, you know. This was like the ruthless aggression era of WWE as well. So this is where things got really over the top and stuff. But I highly recommend this game. You know, the early wrestling games were considered to be some of the best ones. Now, what I love about this game, like I said, it doesn't feel like the new wrestling games where it's quite slow and it's really like stuff. This is a really fast-paced wrestling game, and if you're gonna get one wrestling game, Smackdown vs. Raw is the one to go to. Although I could say Here Comes the Pain or 2006, any of those three games are probably the better ones to get. But I did have them all. Now I've got some first-person shooters. Now it's obvious which one I was going to choose. If you're looking for something non-realistic, arcadey, just fun, I highly recommend Time Splitters Future Perfect. Now, it's funny because every game that I've mentioned so far have got two-player as well. So just bear in mind that these games do have two-player. And what I love about Time Splitters Future Perfect, although some people prefer the second game, this game had a great campaign. It was over the top. You know, it had some really memorable moments. And the multiplayer is really fun. There's a lot of challenges to do. And, you know, lots of unlockables. Co-op campaign, co-op versus mode, co-op, well, versus matchmaking. It is just a great package. I'd recommend all three Time Splitters games. Although the first one is a little bit on the early PlayStation, like first-person shooters, so it's not perfected. The second one, a lot of people say is the best one, but I think this game is the best out of the series because I think the aiming in this game and just the controls are a lot more tighter, whereas Time Splitters 1 and 2 have that sort of early first-person shooter feel, like, you know, GoldenEye, that sort of style. If you grew up with that, that's fine. But with this one, it has a more modern feel to it with the controls. And it just seems a lot more tighter and more natural and much more easier to get to. And you don't need to play the previous games to care about the story. So definitely Time Splitters 2. If you're looking for something a little bit on the more, like, realistic side, I guess, I highly recommend Medal of Honor Rising Sun. Now, the reason I chose Rising Sun over Frontline, although Frontline is a really good game, definitely worth checking out in its own right, Rising Sun to me is a better game because it had co-op campaign, and it had versus modes. Now, I used to love playing the versus modes as a kid and the co-op campaign. I had a really great time with this game. It takes place obviously during the Pearl Harbor and stuff like that, and it is just a really great game. You know, it's much more like, I say realistic. Not like realistic. It's still that early first person shooters before, you know, it's got that fine tune between realism and arcade feel to it. And it's a really good game. It's a much more, you know, real life situation. And if I'm going to include one like war game, I have to include Rising Sun. Although there are plenty of Call of Duties as well on the PlayStation 2, which also have really good campaigns. But I recommend Medal of Honor Rising Sun because it has co-op and versus modes, whereas the Call of Duty games and all of that don't really have that. Now we get into some third person games. The game that I had to recommend is Metal Gear Solid 3. I do have the subsistence version as well. If you want to pay a little bit more, because this is a more up-to-date version, it's got some extra stuff. However, I had to include like one stealth story-driven game, and the reason I chose Metal Gear Solid 3 over 2 is because Metal Gear Solid 3 just did everything right. This game has an amazing story. I ain't going to spoil it for you. The best thing about this game, even if you haven't played the second or the first game, it doesn't matter, because this game actually takes place before any of the Metal Gear Solid games, I think. I think this is the first one. It takes place in like the 60s or something. The whole point of this game is you're in the jungle, and what's really great about this game is it just has some amazing features. You know, you have a health bar, of course, but you have a stamina bar, and you have to like find animals in the jungles like snakes and spiders and crocodiles and birds and things, and you eat them, you cook them. You have it's got a survival mechanism to it. You can really customize, like, you know, when you're in certain areas, you can you have to have certain camouflage and face paint to blend in. And this game just is a really good example of PlayStation 2 game that was well ahead of its time. It was re-released on Xbox 360 and does work on Xbox One if you have the HD trilogy. But I highly recommend Metal Gear Solid 3. It is a fantastic game, and even if you haven't played any of the other Metal Gear Solid games, it doesn't matter, because this one is much more out there and different to the other games. And it's a shame really that they didn't really go back to this style in any of the other games. I have to include at least one action horror game, and I included Resident Evil 4. The reason I chose Resident Evil 4 over Code Veronica or Silent Hill is because this game is a much more modern Resident Evil game, whereas the previous games had that tank control, that sort of corner camera view, and the controls were a little bit hard to get used to. Resident Evil 4 gives the over-the-shoulder view, and it's a much more pick up and play kind of game. It has a great campaign. It is a scary game somewhat. It's not as scary as the previous games, of course. This is a much more action-based game compared to the previous ones, but that didn't do anything to hurt its reputation. This is a must-own, must-play game. It is available on GameCube and other systems nowadays, of course, but if you are looking to go back and play a horror action game on the PlayStation 2, Resident Evil 4 is a must-play, especially if you're into that sort of stuff. I had to include one open world action game, and it was kind of obvious which one I was going to choose. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Now, I was kind of torn between San Andreas or Vice City, and the reason I chose San Andreas is because, well, to be honest, I actually played more San Andreas than any other GTA game back in the day. And it does actually have a special 2-player mode that you can find in the game. I won't give away where you find it, but if you find it, there are two player modes that you can find. One of them is the traditional like open world thing, and the other one's like a rampage survival mode. It's really interesting. But what made Grand Theft Auto San Andreas so good is it is really open world. It had some sort of RPG elements to it as well, where you could, you know, keep your character fit and stuff. You know, if you ate too much, you get fat. It had some great customization options. You could go to the gym and work out. This was really the cornerstone of what made the Grand Theft Auto series much bigger than what it was. It does have like a gangster vibe to it as well. You know, like the gangs in like Los Santos and stuff like that. But it is a must-play game. And the best part about this game, if you don't care about the story, put some cheat codes in and just have a lot of fun. That's what I used to do. Now I've got a couple of strategy games. Now the first one is actually, well, it is a strategy game and it isn't, and that is Thrillville Off the Rails. Now there's also normal Thrillville as well, but this game is basically, imagine Roller Coaster Tycoon, but instead of actually doing it from a bird's eye view, you actually go around the theme park on your feet, you know, as a character, and you talk to people. You can customize your rides, you can put things in. There's a ton of like mini games available. This is a really fun mix of party game, RPG, and strategy all in one. It still has the classic roller coaster building and stuff, but it is a really fun game. It was released on Xbox 360 as well. But this game is a must play in my opinion. It's unlike any other city building or roller coaster building theme park game you've ever played, and it is a really fun game. Off the Rails is much more crazy and out there, whereas Thrillville still has some stuff. And it does have some two-player like mini game modes, which are really fun, by the way. Definitely check it out. Now, if you're into more hardcore simulation strategy games, I highly recommend Kessen. Now, Kessen is probably the closest thing that I could compare it to would be something like Total War Shogun or something like that. I've only played it a couple of times, and what I want to say about this game is it's really fun and well done strategy game on the PlayStation 2. Normally when it comes to strategy games on, you know, PlayStation or any console in general, especially big war games like this, they're not that great, but this game is done really well. There are actually 3 games, and I'm guessing they're all really good, but the first one is the only one that I've played, and obviously one to start off with. It has a really easy interface. You know, you send your armies across these battlefields, you can do all these different tactics and things, but it is a really highly recommended game, and if you are into those sort of strategy games, Kessen is a must play. I have realised that I haven't really got any like RPGs or any like JRPGs in here, mostly because I haven't really played many of them, but they're kind of a giveaway really kind of thing, you know, Disgaea and Final Fantasy and stuff. So Kingdom Hearts as well is a must play for people as well, but I don't really play a lot of them, or haven't played a lot of them, so I didn't really want to share that. Now we get into some hack and slash games. I had to include the Dynasty Warriors series on here somewhere. It doesn't really matter which one you play, because I'm going to be honest, a lot of them are similar on the PlayStation 2. I've just got 5 here because it was the latest one that was released, so obviously it's the most in tune Dynasty Warriors. But there are so many Warriors games on the PlayStation 2, Dynasty Warriors, Samurai Warriors, and like Warriors Orochi. These are really fun, big open battle hack and slash games, just loads of enemies on the screen, tearing your way through them. Really fun games. They do get a bit monotonous at times, but if you are into these sort of things and you're looking for something a little bit over the top, definitely check out the Dynasty Warriors series. Another game that I had to recommend in the hack and slash series is Devil May Cry 3. Now, of course, if you care about the story, then play 1 and 2 as well. But the reason I wanted to include the third game, and this is the special edition, is because the third one, in my opinion, was the most polished of them all. The second game was actually really good as well, and the first one's a classic. But I think Devil May Cry 3 really did Really did a great job. It took the combo system, it gave you new weapons, you know, and it had 2 playable characters as well. There's actually quite a few unlockable characters as well, actually, but you could play as both Dante and Virgil. And I think the story in this game was really good as well. And this game is challenging, but it's not as hard as 1 and 2. So I think Devil May Cry 3 is the first Devil May Cry game you should play if you've never played a Devil May Cry game. And if you are going to go out there, definitely get the special edition because you get that extra content. Now we get into some fighting games. First game I wanted was like a traditional 3D, 2D arena fighter game, classic, you know. And I had to include, I was torn between Tekken Tag Tournament and Soul Calibur 2, but the reason I chose Soul Calibur 2 is because I really like Soul Calibur series. These games are really fun fighting games. They're not realistic. You know, there's a lot of weapons involved and stuff. This game does have like a interesting like story mode mechanic, and the third game even has a much more in-depth story mode mechanic. And yeah, I highly recommend the Soul Calibur 2 game. It's just a really fun fighting game, and it has some great versus modes as well, and really memorable roster of characters. Just a must-own, must-play game. If you are looking for more of a 3D fighter though, with the behind the camera view, I recommend Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi. Now there's 3, it doesn't really matter which one you have. I recommend the third one because you can get all of the characters from the previous games in there. But that one is a bit more expensive. The first one is a bit more cheap. But this is a really, really fun fighting game. You know, it has so many different characters to play as, and even if you've never watched Dragon Ball Z, it is a really fun game because it's a different style of fighting game to the traditional, you know, 2 characters, you know, against each other horizontal. This game gives you a bit more freedom, you know, to find your enemies around the map. And it's a bit more over the top, but it's a really fast-paced fighting game. And even if you don't like Dragon Ball Z, it's still a fun game to this day. I had to include at least one superhero game on here, and the one that I included was SpiderMan 2. With the announcement of the upcoming Spider-Man Miles Morales, I had to include Spider-Man 2 because this game took the new Spider-Man that was released on PS4 really took a lot from this game actually. It's open world, you know, you could really go away and you could do all of the crazy things like, you know, having to find people's balloons, deliver pizzas. It had a leveling up system. You could stop crimes. It was open world. And the main thing about this game is the webbing in this game. The way you use your web is really well done. It's a really good game. If you are looking for at least one superhero game to get day one, I highly recommend Spider-Man 2. Now I've got a couple of sort of like beat 'em up co-op games, maybe for younger generations. And what I have is Shrek 2 and Over the Hedge. Now, even if you never watched these films, you don't care about them, doesn't matter. These are really fun games. They are very similar. This one has 4 players. This one has well, they're both 2 players. But these are sort of like drop-in, drop-out games. They're like beat 'em up. You know, you're just going around the missions, beating up a bunch of enemies, platforming, some puzzle elements. But these are great co-op games, really fun co-op games, and they're great for people that, you know, have younger kids and stuff. Even if you don't have kids, they're still fun games. Definitely recommend them. And the last section I have are some racing games. Of course, I had to have at least one simulator, one more realistic game, and that is Gran Turismo 4. This game is absolutely gorgeous. For the PlayStation 2, this game had over 700 cars, over 50 tracks. It was amazing. This game is really realistic for its time. And the graphics are fantastic. The driving is really tight. There's a lot of in-depth things for you simulator fans out there. It had a really cool extra mode where you could do like a strategy mode where instead of driving the car, you could actually work as like a pit stop guy. You tell the car what to do. Like, I'll overtake this one, come in for a pit stop, all of that stuff. And it had a pretty in-depth campaign, you know, where you get a car, you upgrade it, you level it up, and you do different tracks and get new licenses and level up and things. But it is a must-own, must-play game. Even if you're not the biggest simulator fan and you don't want to spend loads of hours on it, it still has some great, you know, unlockable stuff, and you get a bunch of stuff when you start the game as well. Definitely worth checking out. If you're into more street racing, non-realistic games, I had to include one of the Need for Speed games, and that is Need for Speed Underground. The reason I chose Need for Speed Underground over Most Wanted or Underground 2 is because this is a much more circuit racing game. It's not an open world game. It is just a circuit racing game. It had a bunch of extra modes like drag racing, drifting mode. And this game is really good. It had some great customization for its time. It is a really good game to get started with. If you've never played a Need for Speed game, this is the one to start with. Because after this game, they only got better. They did get worse into the later stage, but the PS2 section of Need for Speed games are pretty good. And Underground is the one that I find to be the best one to start with. And last but not least is another multiplayer vehicle combat game, Cell Damage Overdrive. I absolutely love this game to pieces. If you've ever played Twisted Metal, imagine Twisted Metal but cartoonish. It seems like a really childish game, but believe me, it is really fun, over the top. If you have some people to play it with, I highly recommend it. It does have a racing mode on there as well, but the best mode is the point mode, where you just have to try and get kills and points, you know, smashing things. There's over-the-top weapons, giant baseball bats, miniguns, rocket launchers, helicopters. It is crazy. It is a must-play. So much fun to be had. Well, anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Hopefully this is giving you a bit of an idea. Like I said, this is for people that are hoping to get into the PlayStation 2. These are day one purchases, my personal opinion. But anyway, guys, if you enjoyed today's video, feel free to leave a like and, of course, comment below. Let me know what you think are some day one purchases. Let me know if there's anything that I missed out on, of course. And, of course, follow me on Mixer, Instagram and Twitter at The Mad Kiger, and subscribe if you haven't already. I will be streaming tonight Overwatch on Mixer at The Mad Kiger. Feel free to come in and watch and join in the fun. And as always, guys, have a nice day, and I will see you in the next video. Take care and bye-bye.